The slipspace portal opened without warning. That was the first anomaly. Slipspace transitions didn't announce themselves with the specific quality of a Forerunner portal, the clean geometric tear in real space. The light that came through it, carrying the signature of something engineered rather than naturally occurring. The specific wavelength that Roland had cataloged in 3 previous encounters with Forerunner transit technology, and that he was now seeing again at a scale that exceeded all 3 combined. This was not a ship-mounted slipspace drive. This was infrastructure. Someone had built a door here, in this unremarkable corner of space. And the door had been waiting the specific patient quality of Forerunner technology that operated on timescales that made human impatience look like a chemical reaction for something to come close enough to trigger it. The UNSC Infinity came close enough at 0847 hours on a Tuesday. "Portal event," Roland said, his holographic avatar snapping to attention on the bridge holotable with the specific urgency of an AI that had processed the sensor data in 0.003 seconds and had spent the remaining 0.997 seconds deciding how to deliver the information. Forerunner classification. Confidence 91%. "It is, Captain. It is directly ahead, and it is open, and we are already inside the event horizon threshold." Captain Thomas Lasky looked at the view screen. The portal filled it. "All stop," Lasky said. "All stops will not," Roland began. "I know," Lasky said. "All stop anyway." The Infinity's engines reversed with the specific, enormous effort of a ship that massed 3 kilometers from bow to stern, and that was being asked to halt a momentum that the laws of physics had opinions about. The effort was insufficient. The portal's gravitational gradient had the ship the way a current had a leaf, not violently, not with the specific destructive quality of a weapon, but with the specific patient irresistibility of something that had been engineered to move things from one place to another, and that was doing exactly that. The Infinity went through. The transit lasted 4.7 seconds. Master Chief experienced it from Deck 7, where he had been running a weapons diagnostic on a Mantis Walker with Fireteam Majestic, and the transit felt the way all slipspace transitions felt inside Mjolnir, the specific nauseating quality of spatial geometry temporarily becoming optional. The HUD's sensor suite losing reference for the duration. The specific disorienting instant of being between places before being somewhere. The Spartans around him handled it with the professional silence of people for whom disorientation was an occupational condition rather than an emergency. DeMarco grabbed a handhold. Thorne widened his stance. Vale didn't move at all, which was either exceptional balance or the specific stubbornness of a Spartan who had decided that slipspace was not going to make her stumble. Then they were somewhere. The HUD rebuilt its reference frame in 1.1 seconds. Master Chief looked at what his sensors were telling him. Then he walked to the nearest viewport. He had been to a significant number of planets. That was not hyperbole, John. 117 had boots-on-ground operational experience across dozens of worlds, had seen Installation 04 from orbit and the Ark's impossible geometry from the surface and Requiem's interior biosphere from inside it. He had a specific experiential catalog of what planets looked like and what they felt like and what his sensors told him about them that was, by any reasonable measure, comprehensive. The planet below the Infinity did not fit the catalog. It was green, extraordinarily green, the specific luminous quality of a biosphere in full health, the green of a world that had never had a halo fire, that had never been glassed from orbit, that had never had the specific, terrible intervention of a war that operated at civilizational scale. The oceans were the precise blue of water that had not been contaminated with anything. The atmosphere was breathable. His suit confirmed this in the first second. Oxygen, nitrogen, human standard, clean. No particulate contamination, no radiation above the background, no chemical signatures of industrial-scale weapons manufacturing. His sensors were showing him something else. Energy signatures. Not Forerunner. Not Covenant. Not human. Thousands of them, tens of thousands, distributed across the planet's surface in patterns that corresponded with no weapon system, no power generation facility, no industrial process in his operational catalog. Small signatures, most of them, localized, moving, and the movement patterns were not mechanical, not the specific regular motion of a vehicle or a drone or a deployed weapons platform. Organic movement. The specific variable quality of living things going where living things decided to go. Biological. Roland, Master Chief said, into the ship.com. Working on it. Roland said, from everywhere and nowhere, the ship's AI, occupying the Infinity's full network simultaneously. The energy signatures are, I don't have a classification. They're biological in origin, but the energy output is orders of magnitude above what biological systems should be capable of producing without external power sources. A. Pause. The specific processing pause of an AI. Encountering data that required genuine recalibration rather than simple categorization. I'm seeing a caterpie-sized organism on the surface of what appears to be a forest path, producing thermal and kinetic energy equivalent to a small power cell. I'm seeing an aquatic creature the size of a dolphin generating electrical discharge at approximately 100,000 volts without any apparent biological mechanism that should support that. Another pause. That should not be physically possible under any framework of biology I have on record. But it is, Master Chief said. It is, Roland confirmed, repeatedly, across tens of thousands of individual organisms. Whatever the underlying physics are, they are consistent and they are native to this world, and they have been operating this way for, based on the geological and atmospheric record, millions of years. Master Chief looked through the viewport at the planet below, at the green of it, the blue of it, the specific quality of a world that had never known the war he had been fighting since he was 6 years old, and that war that unknowingly, the way healthy things wore health, not as an achievement, not as something it had chosen, but as simply the condition of being what it was. He looked at his targeting scope. Through it, at maximum magnification, he could see the surface. A town small, pre-industrial in its architecture, white houses with red roofs, arranged in the specific organized quality of a settlement that had been there long enough to become comfortable with itself, to stop trying to impose geometry on the landscape and to start fitting into it instead. Fields at the edges, well tended. A road of packed earth running south through the center. Trees surrounding it on 3 sides, with the specific unthreatening quality of trees that had never been used as cover for an ambush because the concept of ambush had never been particularly relevant here. And on the road, moving away from the town toward a path that led into the forest, a figure, small, humans, 10, maybe 11 years old, wearing a red cap and a jacket that was built for movement rather than protection, walking with the specific purposeful quality of someone who had somewhere to be and was going there and was not uncertain about either the destination or the going, the walk of someone beginning something. Beside the figure, a small yellow creature, 4-legged, long ears, the specific compact quality of something that had been built by evolution or by something else, a question Roland had just opened and not yet closed for both speed and electrical output simultaneously. The energy signature his scope was reading from it was not small, not for its size. For its size, it was extraordinary, the specific dense energy of something that contained significantly more capability than its physical dimensions suggested should be possible. The figure said something to the creature. The creature's ears moved. They turned the corner and disappeared into the trees. Master Chief lowered the scope. There was a quality to what he had just seen that he did not have operational vocabulary for. Not a threat assessment, not a tactical evaluation. Something simpler and less categorized, the specific quality of watching someone begin something and understanding, without data to support it, that the beginning mattered. Captain, he said into the calm. Chief, Lasky said, we're seeing it too. Populated world, Master Chief said. Pre-industrial surface infrastructure, but non-standard biological entities with significant energy output distributed across the full planetary surface. Forerunner portal brought us here. Recommend we... I know what you're going to recommend, Lasky said. Caution, Master Chief said. Extreme caution, Lasky agreed. Roland, can you establish any communication with the surface? Attempting, Roland said. The language is I'm detecting radio transmissions, broadcast quality, multiple frequencies, global coverage. The language shares no root structure with any human language in my database, but the speakers are anatomically and genetically human. These are Homo sapiens, Captain, completely standard human biology. They just developed their civilization along an entirely different trajectory. A pause. I'm also detecting a global communications network. Digital, reasonably sophisticated by pre-interstellar standards. The content is a pause that had the specific quality of an AI encountering something that required not just recalibration, but a genuine expansion of its interpretive framework. The content is primarily focused on organized competitive events between the biological entities, structured tournaments, ranking systems. A governance body that appears to regulate both the competitive events and, from what I can parse, broader civic life. A longer pause. Captain, the governance body is called a league. It operates regionally. The highest individual rank within it appears to be called champion. Another pause. I'm also detecting what appears to be broadcast coverage of a 10-year-old defeating the champion of one region's league approximately 6 months ago. The broadcast audience was significant. A child defeated their champion, Palmer said from across the bridge. With a Pikachu, Roland said. Which is what I am classifying the small yellow creatures as, based on frequency of appearance in broadcast data. Palmer was quiet for 1.3 seconds. Roland, she said, is that the same kind of creature the chief just saw on the road? Yes, Commander, Roland said. The one producing 100,000 volts, she said. The same classification? Yes, Roland said. And a 10-year-old with one of those just defeated their best trainer, she said. Comprehensively, Roland said. The broadcast data suggests it wasn't particularly close. The bridge held the specific silence of a group of extremely experienced military professionals processing a data point that their operational frameworks had not been designed to accommodate. Lasky broke it. Roland, current threat assessment for the Infinity. Minimal, Roland said immediately. I am detecting no weapon systems that pose a threat to this vessel at any range. The most powerful energy discharge I have recorded from the surface since our arrival was approximately 150,000 volts from a large orange dragon-type creature near a mountain range in the eastern continent. That would be significant against personnel and light vehicles. Against the Infinity's hull plating, it is not significant. A pause. The planet does not appear to have developed nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, directed energy weapons, or any form of ordnance above what I would classify as small arms equivalents. The most destructive individual capability on this planet is biological, and it appears to be under voluntary control by its partner organisms. Another pause. Captain, I genuinely believe we have arrived at a world that has never developed weapons of mass destruction. The specific evolutionary and cultural pressure that drives that development, existential conflict between large organized groups, does not appear to have occurred here at the civilization-ending scale. Because they had the Pokémon, Lasky said quietly. That is my working hypothesis, Roland said. Yes, Commander Palmer spoke. Captain, recommend we send ground teams before we do anything else. Standard first contact protocols. Light profile. No Mac cannons pointed at the surface. We go down there looking like explorers, not an invasion force. Agreed, Lasky said. Chief. Sir, Master Chief said. You're on the first Pelican, Lasky said. Take Fire Team Majestic. Light weapons, load. Full Mjolnir, I'm not sending you down there naked, but no mantis, no scorpions, no vehicles heavier than a mongoose. We are not. He paused, choosing the specific words of a commander who understood that the situation required them. We are not going down there like we're expecting a fight. We are going down there like we are guests who have arrived unexpectedly and who understand that the appropriate response to arriving unexpectedly on someone else's world is to demonstrate that we know how to behave. Understood, Master Chief said. He went to find a pelican. In the hangar, the pre-mission prep had the specific professional efficiency of Spartans who had done this enough times that the motions were automatic and the attention was freed up for the variables that weren't automatic. DeMarco checked his BR-85. Thorne went through his sidearm twice. Madsen and Glassman were running a quiet technical conversation about the energy signature data Roland had pushed to their HUDs. Vale was reading the broadcast language files that Roland had compiled, her HUD running the AI's translation attempts in real time, her lips moving slightly in the specific way of someone learning a language by feel rather than by rule. Master Chief ran his checklist. Mjolnir systems nominal. MA5D loaded, safety on. M6H secured. Motion tracker active. Shield emitters at full. The checklist was for a war that was not waiting on the other side of this particular door. He knew that. He ran it anyway, because the checklist was not only for war. The checklist was for the specific quality of attention that kept people alive in situations they hadn't cataloged yet. And this situation was definitively uncatalogued. The Pelican lifted from the hangar deck with the specific hydraulic quality of a craft that had made this motion 10,000 times and knew it precisely. The hangar doors opened onto space. The planet below was green and blue and clean and full of creatures that should not have been physically possible, and humans who had built their entire civilization around the specific bond between a person and one of those creatures. And Master Chief sat in the troop bay with Fireteam Majestic around him and looked at his HUD and thought about the kid on the road with the yellow creature and the specific purposeful quality of someone going somewhere. He wondered where they were going. He had not wondered about that kind of thing, the simple human wondering about another person's journey rather than their threat profile, in a very long time, possibly since before the augmentations. Possibly since he was roughly the same age as the kid on the road, before the UNSC had taken him and made him into the thing he was, which was the finest weapon humanity had ever produced, and which had never, until this moment, looked at a child walking into a forest and felt anything except the tactical assessment of a possible civilian in a potential engagement zone. He felt something else now. He didn't have a word for it. He filed it under the unknown and watched the green come up fast through the viewport. Pallet Town emerged from the trees below the red roofs, the white walls, the specific organized tranquility of a place that had never needed walls around it, because nothing that lived near it had ever posed the kind of threat that walls were for. The Pelican's landing struts extended. The field outside the town was soft, with late-season grass that bent under the downdraft with the specific quality of something that had never had a pelican land in it before and was adjusting to the information. The ramp dropped. Master Chief stepped out into the cleanest air he had ever breathed on any world, in any operational theater, in 30 years of continuous warfare. And the Pokémon world looked back at him through the eyes of a tall man with white hair and a lab coat who was standing at the field's edge with a notepad and a pen and the specific expression of someone who had been waiting for exactly this. Remarkable, Professor Oak said, in a language that Roland was already translating in Master Chief's ear. Simply remarkable. I've been scanning your vessel for the past 40 minutes. He looked at the Spartan, the 2 meters and change of Mjolnir armor, the MA5D, the gold visor reflecting the clean Kanto sky. You're human, aren't you? Yes, the Master Chief said. Extraordinary, Oak said. He made a note. I have so many questions. So do we, Master Chief said. Oak looked at the Infinity in orbit, the 3-kilometer warship hanging above his world like a very large and very serious question mark. "Well then," he said, "I suppose we'd better get started." Professor Oak's laboratory was not what Master Chief had expected. Not that he had formed a specific expectation. Operational protocol discouraged assumptions about unknown environments for exactly the reason that assumptions created blind spots, and blind spots got people killed. But if he had been constructing a working hypothesis about what the research institution Roland had identified from orbit would contain, he would have predicted something that looked like a laboratory, equipment, instrumentation, the specific, organized complexity of a facility designed to study things systematically. The laboratory had all of that. It also had Pokémon everywhere. Not contained, not behind glass, or in secured enclosures, or in the specific controlled conditions of a research environment that understood its subjects as variables to be isolated. They were simply present, in the way that furniture was present, in the way that the equipment was present, as though the distinction between the laboratory and the world outside it was a matter of convention rather than necessity. A large tortoise-shaped creature with a tree growing from its shell was asleep in the corner with the specific quality of something that had been asleep in that corner for a significant amount of time and had no plans to stop. 3 small pink creatures that Roland's translation matrix was tentatively classifying as Clefairy were engaged in what appeared to be a collaborative examination of a microscope, their small hands moving the focusing dial with the specific careful quality of genuine scientific curiosity. DeMarco watched the Clefairy for 4.1 seconds. "Are they?" he began. "Yes," Vale said. She had been running Roland's translation matrix since the Pelican and had the specific, focused quality of a linguist encountering a new language for the first time, the specific pleasure of it. The way the grammar was beginning to resolve into something that her brain was starting to anticipate rather than just receive. They're researchers. Oak uses them for lab assistance. The Pokémon assist in the research, DeMarco said. "About Pokémon," Vale said. DeMarco looked at the Clefairy. One of them looked back at him. "Huh," DeMarco said. Professor Oak moved through his laboratory with the specific ease of a man in his element, pulling up displays and data screens as he went, gesturing at specimens and equipment with the proprietary confidence of someone who had spent 40 years building this place and knew every corner of it. He was talking continuously, the specific, rapid-fire quality of an academic who had encountered something genuinely new and whose mind was running considerably faster than his mouth could manage. Roland was translating in real time into Master Chief's ear, the AI's language acquisition running at the specific accelerating pace of a system that was good at this and knew it. The translation was rough at the edges, idioms rendered literally, technical terminology approximated, but the meaning was coming through with sufficient clarity for operational purposes. "The energy signature your ship is producing is unlike anything in my database," Oak was saying, "which is itself remarkable because my database covers the full range of known Pokémon move types and the associated energy signatures. And your ship's drive systems produce something that doesn't correspond to any of them. Fire, water, electric, psychic, ghost, dragon. I've cataloged all of these. Your ship produces plasma drives," Master Chief said, "fusion reactors, slip-space drive components that are currently inactive." He paused. "And Forerunner technology that we don't fully understand ourselves." 2. The Oak stopped moving. He looked at Master Chief over the top of his glasses. "Forerunner," he said. Roland flagged the word in Master Chief's translation feed, no direct equivalent in target language. The professor understood the component morphemes. One who came before. "An ancient civilization," Master Chief said. "Billions of years old. They built the portal that brought us here." Oak was quiet for 3.1 seconds. The specific quality of a scientist receiving information that was simultaneously extraordinary and, on some level, consistent with a hypothesis he had been holding for a long time without sufficient evidence to elevate it. Billions of years, Oak said quietly. At minimum, the Master Chief said. Oak looked at the tortoise creature asleep in the corner. The Venusaur, Roland supplied. The fully evolved form of one of the starter Pokémon Oak distributed to beginning trainers. He looked at it with the specific quality of someone seeing something familiar in a new light. I have believed for 30 years, Oak said carefully, that Pokémon did not evolve. Not in the conventional biological sense. The Cambrian explosion of species diversity. The energy capabilities that exceed all known biological parameters. The specific genetic architecture that enables human Pokémon bonding at what appears to be a neurological level. He paused. Conventional evolutionary theory cannot account for any of it. The mathematics doesn't work. The timescales don't work. He paused again. I wrote a paper in 1981 suggesting that Pokémon were engineered. He paused. It was not well received. By whom? Vale said. By everyone, Oak said, with the specific dry quality of a scientist who had learned to carry professional embarrassment as a badge rather than a wound. The League dismissed it. My colleagues dismissed it. My own graduate students thought I had lost my mind. He looked at Master Chief. Are you telling me I was right? I'm telling you, Master Chief said, that the portal that brought us here was built by beings who engineered life at a planetary scale as a matter of standard practice. He paused. Whether they engineered this. He looked at Clefairy, who had abandoned the microscope and was now examining Glassman's combat knife with the specific careful interest of creatures that had no fear of it. I don't know yet. Yet, Oak said. Yet, Master Chief confirmed. Oak made a very long note on his pad. Outside the laboratory's main window, Palatown was beginning to react to the UNSC Infinity's presence with the specific graduated quality of a community that had learned, through generations of living alongside creatures of extraordinary capability, that the appropriate first response to the unprecedented was curiosity rather than panic. People were on the road, looking up. Children were pointing. An old woman on a porch was looking at the infinity through a pair of binoculars with the specific calm of someone who had seen impressive things before and was prepared to see more. A boy was running toward the laboratory. Fast, the specific all-out sprint of someone who had heard something important and was not going to be left out of it. Red cap, jacket. The yellow creature, the Pikachu, ran beside him with its ears flat, in the specific aerodynamic posture of a creature that was keeping up with a sprinting child without notable effort. Roland flagged the energy signature as the boy approached the Pikachu's electrical charge, building slightly with the excitement of motion. The specific involuntary quality of an emotional response expressed through a biological system that used electricity the way humans used adrenaline. The boy burst through the laboratory door. Professor Oak, he said, in the rapid-fire quality of someone who had been rehearsing this sentence since approximately the moment he saw the infinity in the sky. There's a giant spaceship! He stopped. He saw Master Chief. Master Chief was 2 meters and changed Mjolnir armor, green, gold visor, MA 5D across his chest. The specific quality of a human being that had been engineered and armored to be the most dangerous individual combatant in human history, and that was standing in Professor Oak's laboratory looking at a 10-year-old boy. The boy looked at him for 2.3 seconds. Then he said, "That is the coolest armor I have ever seen." The Master Chief looked at him. The Pikachu on the boy's shoulder was looking at Master Chief's Mjolnir with the specific, focused quality of a creature assessing something in its environment that it hadn't catalogued yet. Its cheeks were sparking slightly, the involuntary electrical expression of heightened attention. "Ash," Professor Oak said, "these are guests from very far away." He looked at Master Chief. "This is Ash Ketchum. He is..." Oak paused, finding the right framing. He is the current world champion. The Master Chief looked at the boy who had defeated every major regional champion with a Pikachu, the 10-year-old who had, according to Roland's broadcast data assessment, comprehensively defeated the best trainers on the planet, who was now standing in Professor Oak's laboratory in a red cap looking at Master Chief's assault rifle with the specific unfrightened curiosity of someone for whom extraordinary things were simply the normal condition of existence. "World champion," Master Chief said. "Yeah," Ash said. "Hi." Pikachu said something. The specific vocalization of its name, Pika, with an inflection that Roland's translation matrix was tentatively rendering as greeting, assessing, interested. "The Pikachu," Master Chief said. He looked at it. "Roland, energy output currently?" "Elevated," Roland said in his ear. "Approximately 40,000 volts in passive state, with peaks to 60,000 during the vocalization. Involuntary." Emotional expression. A pause. "Chief, the Pikachu is excited to see you." That is what 40,000 volts looks like when a Pikachu is happy. Master Chief filed this information carefully. "What is your ship?" Ash said. He had moved closer with the specific unconscious quality of someone whose default response to interesting things was to get nearer to them rather than further away. "It's huge. Is it a spaceship? Have you been to space? How far away did you come from? Is that an alien weapon?" Ash, Oak said. "I'm just asking," Ash said. "It's a warship," Master Chief said. 3 kilometers. Yes, from very far away. And yes." Ash absorbed this. "A warship," he said. "Like for fighting?" "Yes," the Master Chief said. Ash looked at the MA5D. Then he looked at Master Chief's visor. "Have you fought a lot?" Ash said. Not with the specific, morbid curiosity of a child asking about violence, with the specific, direct quality of someone who had been in enough difficult situations himself to understand that the question was not theoretical. The Master Chief looked at him. "Yes," he said. Ash was quiet for a moment. The Pikachu on his shoulder made a small sound, softer than the greeting, different in inflection. Roland's matrix rendered it tentatively as understanding and sympathy. "That sounds hard," Ash said. It was the most direct thing anyone had said to the Master Chief in a very long time. Not about tactics, not about operational parameters, not about the mission or the asset or the strategic implications of his continued function. The specific, simple human acknowledgement that what he had been doing for 30 years was hard, that it cost something, that the cost was real. He didn't have a response to it in any operational protocol he had ever been given. "It is," he said. Ash nodded. Then, with the specific economy of a 10-year-old who had processed what needed to be processed and was ready to move on to the next thing, "Do you want to see the rest of Pallet Town? I can show you around. Pikachu knows where everything is." Pikachu's ears went up. Fireteam Majestic exchanged looks behind their visors, the specific silent communication of a unit that had been operating together long enough to have conversations without speaking. DeMarco's body language said, "This is happening." Thorn apparently said yes. Vale said, "I think we should go." The Master Chief looked at the world champion and his Pikachu. "Lead the way," he said. He fell in beside a 10-year-old boy on a dirt road in a world that had never needed a war, and somewhere above them the Infinity held its orbit, and Roland ran his scans, and Dr. Halsey in her lab aboard ship was already 3 hours into the energy signature data and had stopped sleeping because she had found something in it that she recognized and that should not have been there, and that was going to change everything. But that was above. Down here, on the road, Ash Ketchum was pointing out the houses of people he knew, and Pikachu was running ahead, and coming back, and running ahead again, with the specific joyful energy of a creature that was exactly where it wanted to be. And Master Chief walked through the cleanest air he had ever breathed, and listened to a child describe the world he had grown up in. It was, he thought, a very good world. He had not thought that about the world before. The Pokémon League's emergency session convened at 1,400 hours local time. Not in Kanto. The League's administrative infrastructure operated from Indigo Plateau, the specific fortress-like complex built into the mountain range that formed the natural boundary between Kanto and Johto, the place where regional champions were crowned, and where the governance body that Roland had identified from orbit conducted its actual business beneath the competitive pageantry that the public saw. The building had the specific quality of an institution that had been doing the same thing for a very long time and had developed, in the doing, the specific architectural confidence of something that did not need to announce its importance because its importance was simply evident. Champion Blue had called the session within 11 minutes of Infinity's appearance in orbit, not because he was frightened. The specific quality of Blue's response to the UNSC's arrival was not fear, which would have been the understandable reaction of a regional champion discovering a 3-kilometer warship in low orbit above his hometown. It was the specific, focused urgency of someone who understood that the situation required immediate institutional response and who had the authority to provide it and was doing so. He was 22 years old, and he moved through the League's corridors with the specific certainty of someone who had been the best in the world and who, even having lost that title, remained the kind of person that rooms organized themselves around. He had also, in the 11 minutes between the Infinity's appearance and the emergency session's convening, sent a message to Ash Ketchum telling him to get to the laboratory and make contact. Because Blue had understood something in the first 60 seconds of looking at the Infinity's sensor profile on the League's orbital monitoring systems that the other gym leaders were still working out. The ship was military, it was intact, it was not attacking, and the first contact needed to be made by someone who was completely unafraid of extraordinary things. There was one person on the planet who qualified more completely than anyone else. Now Blue sat at the head of the League's emergency council table and looked at the holographic display Roland had provided through the communications link Master Chief had established from Pallet Town, and he looked at it with the specific, focused assessment of someone who had been winning fights since he was 10 years old and who was running his standard tactical evaluation on a situation that did not fit any tactical framework he had ever used. The other gym leaders were less composed. Lieutenant Surge, the Vermilion City gym leader, a former military man himself, the specific, large quality of someone who had been formidable his entire adult life, was leaning forward with his arms on the table and his eyes on the Infinity's specifications that Roland had transmitted with the specific expression of a man who understood weapons and was looking at a scale of weapons that recalibrated his understanding of the concept. 3 kilometers, he said. That's the ship's length. Yes, said the voice from the communications link. The voice was Roland's. Master Chief had established the link from Pallet Town using the Infinity's communication systems, and Roland was serving as both translator and representative, while Master Chief conducted the ground-level assessment with Fireteam. Majestic. And the weapons, Lieutenant Surge said. MAC cannons, Roland said. Magnetic accelerator cannons. They fire a 600-ton ferric tungsten slug at approximately 4% the speed of light. At orbital distance, the kinetic yield is significant. A pause. The Infinity also carries 72 nuclear warheads, point defense laser systems, and a complement of smaller craft including fighters, dropships, and armored ground vehicles. The council table was very quiet. Sabrina, the Saffron City gym leader, psychic-type specialist, the specific still quality of someone whose abilities gave her a relationship with the emotional weather of a room that was considerably more direct than other people's, looked at the communications link with the specific, focused expression of someone who was reaching past the transmission and trying to get a sense of the being on the other end of it. The AI, she said. Roland, what is your Master Chief's intent? Exploration, Roland said. And answers. We came through a portal we didn't choose to enter. We want to understand where we are, how we got here, and whether it's possible to get back. A pause. We mean no harm to this world or its people. That's what something harmful would also say, Blue said. Yes, Roland agreed. Which is why I would suggest that the most useful metric is not what we say our intent is, but what we do with the capability we have. We have been in orbit for approximately 4 hours. We have not fired a weapon. We have not scanned aggressively. We transmitted our specifications to your monitoring systems voluntarily without being asked. A pause. Master Chief is currently walking through Pallet Town with Ash Ketchum and a Pikachu. Blue looked at the communications link. I know, Roland said. I suggested it too. The ghost-type specialist from Lavender Town, Agatha, elderly. The specific quality of someone who had been doing something long enough to have stopped being surprised by most versions of it made a sound that was not quite a laugh. An AI that suggests sending the world champion to walk a soldier through town, she said. That's either very clever or very honest. Both, I hope, Roland said. Blue looked at the Infinity specifications on the holographic display, at the Mach cannons, at the nuclear warhead count, at the specific scale of destructive capability that the UNSC had arrived with and had, in 4 hours of orbital presence, not used or threatened to use or in any way deployed except to transmit the specifications voluntarily to the people most affected by its existence. The portal, Blue said, that brought them here. Forerunner, they said, ancient civilization. Billions of years old, Roland confirmed. Blue looked at Agatha. Agatha looked back at him with the specific quality of someone who had spent 60 years studying things that other people considered impossible and who was currently running a private assessment of the new information against a very large private database. Mount Moon, Agatha said, quietly. The table shifted. Not physically the specific collective shift of a group of people whose body language changed simultaneously because a word had been said that carried weight they all felt. The ruins beneath Mount Moon, Agatha said. The ones the League has classified as restricted access for 40 years. She looked at Blue. The energy signatures in those ruins have never matched any known Pokémon type. I have been saying for 40 years that they match nothing biological. She paused. Now we have someone sitting in orbit who says they come from a civilization that was engineering life at a planetary scale billions of years ago and that built the portal that brought them here. She paused again. I believe the connection is worth investigating. Blue looked at the display. If they find what's under Mount Moon before we understand what it is, Lieutenant Surge said, we lose any advantage we might have. If it's Forerunner technology and they already know how to read it, Blue said, we never had that advantage. He looked at the display. But if we bring them to it, if we control the access, if we're present for whatever they find, then we have a relationship. We have context. We have the specific leverage of being the people who open the door rather than the people the door was opened on. He paused. Roland? Champion, Roland said. I want to meet Master Chief, Blue said. In person, today, and I want to propose a joint investigation of Mount Moon ruins with full League oversight. He paused. I want to be in the room when they find whatever's down there. I'll convey the request, Roland said. It's not a request, Blue said. Not aggressively, the specific quality of a statement of fact from someone who understood that the distinction between a request and a requirement was a function of relative position and who was being precise about the current positions. It's an invitation with conditions. The conditions are League presence, League oversight, and League access to all findings simultaneously with UNSC access. He paused. In exchange, we provide full cooperation, surface access, and everything in our database about Mount Moon. That's a reasonable arrangement, Roland said. I know, Blue said. The Pelican carrying Master Chief and Fireteam Majestic reached the Indigo Plateau at 1,600 hours. Blue was on the landing pad when it touched down, not with a retinue, not with the specific ceremonial weight of an institution receiving visitors, but alone, which was itself a statement. The specific, deliberate choice of someone who understood that the way you met people communicated something about how you intended to treat them. He looked up at the pelican as the ramp descended. Master Chief came down with it. Blue looked at him. 2 meters and change of Mjolnir armor, the specific, enormous quality of a Spartan in full kit, the gold visor reflecting Indigo Plateau's late afternoon sky, the MA5D across the chest. The specific quality of something that had been built to end conflicts at the highest possible scale. Blue was 22 years old and had been the best trainer in the world and had been defeated comprehensively by a 10-year-old with a Pikachu and had responded to that defeat the way people who were genuinely exceptional responded to genuine defeat by becoming better. He stood on the landing pad in his champion's jacket and looked at the finest soldier humanity had ever produced and did not step back. He extended his hand. "Champion Blue," he said. Roland's translation in Master Chief's ear was instantaneous now. The AI 3 hours into the language and running at approximately 94% accuracy. Master Chief," said. He shook his hand. The specific, careful quality of a Spartan in Mjolnir shaking a human hand, the calibrated restraint of someone who knew exactly how much force his grip contained and who was applying precisely none of it. Blue noted it. "Roland tells me you want answers," Blue said. "Yes," the Master Chief said. "So do we," Blue said. He looked at the infinity visible above them, the 3-kilometer shape of it, against the early evening sky. "I want to show you something. Tomorrow. Beneath a mountain." He paused. "I think it might answer both our questions at once." The Master Chief looked at him. At the 22-year-old champion who had called an emergency session within 11 minutes of the Infinity's arrival and had sent the world champion to make first contact and had arrived at this meeting alone and had extended his hand without hesitation. "What's under the mountain?" Master Chief said. "Something that's been there for a very long time," Blue said. "Something we don't understand." He paused. "Something that I think you might." The Master Chief looked at the mountain range to the north, the specific dark quality of mountains at dusk, the shadows gathering in the valleys, the specific quality of something ancient waiting in the rock. "What time tomorrow?" he said. Blue almost smiled. "Early," he said. "I want to be underground before the tourists arrive." "We'll be ready," Master Chief said. Blue looked at the Infinity one more time. At the scale of it, the specific military gravity of a ship that carried 72 nuclear warheads and had Mach cannons and had arrived through a Forerunner portal and had, in 5 hours of orbital presence, done nothing except send a soldier to walk through Pallet Town with a 10-year-old and his Pikachu. "Master Chief," Blue said. "Champion," Master Chief said. "Whatever's under that mountain," Blue said. "Whatever we find, I need to know that you understand this is our world, our history, our people." He paused. "You came through a door you didn't choose. I understand that. But you're here now, and the decisions you make here are going to have consequences here." He paused. "I need to know that you understand that." The Master Chief looked at him. He thought about the worlds the UNSC had been to, about the specific cost of being the most powerful force in a room and not understanding the room, about reach, about the specific price of decisions made without sufficient comprehension of their consequences. "I understand it," Master Chief said. Blue looked at him for 2.1 seconds, the specific assessing quality of someone deciding whether a statement was true. He decided it was. "Good," Blue said. "I'll see you at dawn." He walked back into the plateau building. Master Chief stood on the landing pad and looked at the mountains and thought about what was under them and about Dr. Halsey aboard the Infinity, who had sent him 3 flagged messages in the last 2 hours, all tagged priority and all containing variations on the same sentence. "The energy signatures from Mount the Moon is a Forerunner. And, Chief, they're not just Forerunners, they're Precursors." He looked at the mountains. The Precursors had built the Forerunners, and something Precursor was under that rock. He went back up the ramp. Dr. Catherine Halsey had not slept in 31 hours. This was not unusual. Halsey operated on a sleep schedule that her colleagues had long ago stopped trying to normalize. She slept when the work allowed it, and the work rarely allowed it, and she had made a private peace with that arrangement decades ago. What was unusual was the specific quality of her wakefulness tonight, which was not the driven, tunnel-focused quality of a scientist pursuing a known problem toward a known category of solution. It was the specific electric quality of someone who had picked up a thread and pulled it and found that the thread went somewhere she had not expected, and that somewhere was rewriting the framework she used to understand everything else. She had started with the energy signatures. Roland had pushed the full sensor sweep to her terminal 4 hours after the Infinity's arrival. 847 terabytes of spectral, thermal, electromagnetic, and quantum-level data from a planetary scan that the Infinity's systems had been running continuously since they exited the portal. Standard procedure. You arrived somewhere new. You scanned it. You built a picture. The picture had been building for 4 hours, and it was not a picture Halsey had expected to see. The Pokémon energy signatures were extraordinary on their own terms. She had been aware of that from Roland's initial assessment, had noted it, and had flagged it for detailed analysis. But the extraordinary quality of the Pokémon signatures was, she had discovered, not the most significant thing in the data. It was the second most significant thing. It was, in fact, a consequence of the most significant thing, and the most significant thing was so far outside her operational framework that she had spent the first 2 hours after finding it simply sitting with it, running verification passes, checking her methodology, looking for the error that would resolve it into something manageable. There was no error. The energy that the Pokémon generated, the fire type, water type, electric type, psychic type signatures that Roland had cataloged as exceeding all known biological parameters, was not self-generated. It was transmitted from a network, a planetary network, distributed through the geological substrate of the world itself, running through the rock and the soil and the water table in the specific way of something that had been designed to be everywhere simultaneously, that had been built into the planet at a foundational level rather than added to it afterward. The network was old. The geological records suggested it had been operating continuously for approximately 2 billion years, which was a number that Halsey had typed into her analysis and then stared at for a significant amount of time before continuing. 2 billion years. The Forerunners had been at their height approximately 100,000 years ago. The Precursors, the beings who had created the Forerunners, who had engineered the Forerunners as a species the way the Forerunners had engineered humans, who had existed at a scale and duration that made the Forerunners themselves look recent, had disappeared approximately 10 million years ago. 2 billion years predated both of them. It predated everything in Halsey's knowledge of Forerunner history except the Precursors' own origin, which was not known and had never been known, and which the Forerunners had spent a significant portion of their civilization trying to determine and had never managed. What she was looking at in the Pokémon world's geological substrate was older than the Precursors. She had stopped calling it a Forerunner network after the second verification pass. She was now calling it, in her private notes, the Foundation. The Foundation ran everywhere, through every continent, every ocean floor, every mountain range. And where it ran, it provided she was choosing this word carefully. With the specific precision she applied to all terminology in conditions of genuine uncertainty, it provided something to the biological organisms in contact with it, the Pokémon. The energy they expressed, the capabilities that exceeded biological parameters, the specific impossible range of what they could do. Fire-type Pokémon, in contact with the Foundation's geological substrate running beneath the earth under their feet, were receiving something from it, converting it, expressing it as flame, as electricity, as the specific psychic capability that Sabrina's Pokémon demonstrated. The Foundation was making them what they were. And the Foundation had been doing it for 2 billion years. Halsey pulled up the Mount Moon data, specifically the energy concentration that Roland had flagged as anomalous, even against the already anomalous baseline of the planetary data. Mount, the moon, had a node. The specific architectural term came to her from her Forerunner database in Forerunner installation design. A node was an access point, an interface location, a place where the system's underlying infrastructure surfaced into a form that could be interacted with directly. Mount the Moon's node was surfacing something, not just energy structure. The specific organized geometry of something that had been built rather than grown, visible in the deep scan data as a regularity amid the geological chaos of a mountain's internal architecture. Chambers, corridors, the specific spatial organization of a facility, and in the facility's deepest chamber, the specific energy signature that had made her stop sleeping. She had seen this signature before, once, in a Forerunner database fragment recovered from Installation 04's wreckage, a theoretical record. A design document for something the Forerunners had described in the document as the alternative answer, a project they had found evidence of, a precursor undertaking, an attempt at a solution to the question that the Halo Array had answered with destruction. The Halo Array's answer to the flood had been, destroy all life above a certain biological threshold and wait for it to re-evolve. The alternative answer, the one the Forerunners had found evidence of but had never located, had been, change life itself, build it differently. Build it so that the flood's specific biological mechanism finds no purchase. Build species that cannot be converted. Build a world where the flood's hunger has nothing to eat. The Forerunners had dismissed it as theoretical, as incomplete. As a project, the Precursors had begun and abandoned. Halsey looked at the Mount Moon node data, at the Pokémon energy signatures across the planetary surface, at the 2 billion year operating history of the Foundation running through the geological substrate of an entire world. The Precursors had not abandoned it. They had finished it. And then they had hidden it, the specific, careful concealment of something precious in a location that would not be found by anyone who didn't arrive through the specific portal that had been built for exactly this purpose, the portal that had pulled the Infinity through, the portal that had been waiting for someone who understood what they were looking at. She sent Master Chief the third flagged message. The energy signatures from Mount the Moon is a Forerunner. Chief, they're not just Forerunners, they're Precursors. Get to that mountain as fast as you can. What's under it is the reason this world exists. The Infinity science team worked through the night. Halsey ran it with the specific, focused quality of someone who had stopped sleeping because the work was more important than the sleep, and who expected the same from the people working with her, and who was, by most measures, correct in that expectation. Her team were the best the UNSC had assigned to the Infinity's research division, and they performed accordingly, running parallel analyses, cross-referencing the Foundation data against everything in the Forerunner archive, building the picture with the specific collaborative efficiency of people who understood that speed mattered. By 0300 hours, they had a reasonably complete framework. The Foundation was a terraforming and biological engineering system operating at planetary scale, built into the geological substrate of this world approximately 2 billion years ago by an agency that predated Precursor civilization as it was known to the Forerunner record. Its function was dual. It sustained the biological diversity of the Pokémon species by providing the energy substrate that their capabilities ran on, and it maintained the specific genetic architecture that allowed human-Pokémon bonding at a neurological level. The bonding was not incidental. That was the point. The Foundation had been built to produce a specific outcome, a world in which the dominant sapient species and the biologically extraordinary companion species were neurologically integrated, the bond between them producing a form of cooperative consciousness that the Forerunner database fragment had described in the Forerunners' characteristic clinical register as a fundamental rewrite of the predation imperative. Halsey had spent an hour on that phrase. The predation imperative, the specific evolutionary driver that produced competition for resources, territorial conflict, the accumulation of power at the expense of others, was the mechanism the Flood exploited. It found the predation imperative in biological neural architecture and used it, amplified it, turned it against the organism. A species whose predation imperative had been rewritten, not removed, but transformed, redirected from competition with others into the specific cooperative drive of the human-Pokémon bond, was a species the Flood could not convert. Not because they were stronger, because they were different. Because the specific vulnerability the Flood required was not present. The Pokémon world was not a world that had been lucky enough to avoid the Flood. It was a world that had been built to be immune to it, and the building had worked. Halsey sat back in her chair at 0347 hours and looked at the framework her team had assembled and felt the specific quality of a scientist confronting a discovery that was not just significant, but was the specific kind of significance that changed what everything else meant. The Halo Array had fired. Trillions of lives across the galaxy destroyed to stop the Flood. The Forerunners had believed it was the only answer. They had been wrong. The answer had been here, in this world, running for 2 billion years, encoded in the bond between a boy in a red cap and a small yellow creature that ran beside him with the specific joyful energy of something that was exactly where it wanted to be. The answer had always been love. She almost laughed. She would have, if she had been someone who laughed at things. Instead, she made a note, the specific, precise notation of a scientist recording something important, and sent it to the Master Chief along with the full framework. Then she sent it to Captain Lasky. Then she sat in her chair in the Infinity's research division at 0347 hours with the specific quality of someone who had found the most important thing she had ever found and who was sitting with the weight of it. Outside the research division's viewport, the Pokémon world was dark with night and full of the Foundation's quiet, ancient hum. 2 billion years of an answer running through the rock and the soil and the water. And in a town called Pallet, with red-roofed houses, a boy and his Pikachu were sleeping, and the bond between them was the specific thing that the Precursors had spent 2 billion years building toward. Halsey looked at it. "Roland," she said. "Dr. Halsey," Roland said, from the research division speakers. "The portal that brought us here," she said. "It was targeted, wasn't it?" A pause. The specific processing pause of an AI running a calculation it had already run and was confirming. "Yes," Roland said. "The portal's activation parameters match the Infinity's specific Forerunner-derived slipspace signature. It was waiting for a ship with Forerunner technology aboard." Another pause. "It was waiting for us specifically, or for someone like us. Someone who could read what's under Mount Moon. Someone who needed to see it," Halsey said. "Yes," Roland said. "The Forerunners," Halsey said. "Before they fired the array, they found evidence of this place, this project. They dismissed it as incomplete." She paused. "But they built the portal anyway." Roland was quiet for 3.1 seconds. "A contingency," he said, "in case they were wrong. In case the array was not the only answer, and someone, someday, needed to know that." He paused. The portal was a message to anyone who came after, who had enough Forerunner technology to trigger it and enough context to understand what they found when they arrived. Halsey looked at the planet. "They were wrong," she said. "The Forerunners. They fired the array, and they were wrong. The answer was already here." "Yes," Roland said. "And they knew it might be," Halsey said. "And they built the portal anyway, just in case." "Just in case," Roland confirmed. Halsey was quiet for a long time. "Get Master Chief up," she said. He needs to be at Mount Moon when it opens. He needs to see the chamber. She paused. And Roland, don't brief Captain Lasky on the full implications yet. Not until Master Chief has seen it himself. She paused. Some things need to be understood from the inside before they can be explained from the outside. Understood, Roland said. Dawn was 2 hours away. Under the mountain, the node hummed with 2 billion years of patient purpose, waiting, as it had always been waiting, for the right people to come down the right road. Giovanni had been awake since the Infinity appeared in orbit, not because the ship had frightened him. Fear was a response. Giovanni had spent 30 years systematically excising from his operational psychology, replacing it with the specific cold assessment of someone who had learned that fear was simply unprocessed information, and that processed information was advantageous. The Infinity had not frightened him. It had interested him in the specific way that very large opportunities interested him, with the particular focused intensity of a man who had built Team Rocket from a regional criminal enterprise into a global intelligence and acquisition operation by understanding, faster than anyone else in any given situation, what the situation contained that was valuable and how to take it. The Infinity contained the most valuable thing Giovanni had ever seen. Not the ship itself, though the ship was extraordinary. 3 kilometers of military technology that exceeded anything on the planet by several orders of magnitude. The ship was too large to steal, too large to move, too large to be useful to a ground-based operation. The ship was not the asset. The weapon systems were the asset. Specifically, the Mac cannon technology, the point defense laser arrays, the nuclear warhead delivery systems, and whatever propulsion technology allowed a 3-kilometer vessel to travel between star systems. Any one of these, reverse-engineered and scaled appropriately, would give Team Rocket a capability so far beyond anything any regional government or Pokémon League could counter, that the organization's 40-year ambition to control the world's Pokémon for profit and power would become not an ambition, but a simple administrative matter. Giovanni sat in his Viridian City office at 0200 hours, with 6 of his senior intelligence operatives around the table and the Infinity's publicly transmitted specifications on the screen, and he ran his assessment with the specific, methodical quality of a man who had been winning by being more thorough than his opposition for 3 decades. Entry points, he said. Agent Lambda, his head of technical operations, a small, precise woman with a specific quality of someone whose intelligence operated at a speed that most people found unsettling, pulled up the Infinity's surface contact points. The Pelican landing site outside Pallet Town, the communication link established with the Indigo Plateau, the crew that accompanied Master Chief to the gym leader meeting. She paused. And the research facility aboard ship Dr. Halsey has been transmitting compressed data packets to the League's Science Division. The packets are encrypted, but the encryption is based on human standard protocols, non-Pokémon enhanced. A pause. Our cryptography team can break it in approximately 6 hours. Do it, Giovanni said. The problem, Lambda said, is physical access. The ship is in orbit. Our technology cannot reach it. The weapons systems we want are aboard a vessel we cannot board. She paused. The only way to acquire the technology is to get UNSC personnel on the ground with their equipment and find a way to separate them from it. Giovanni looked at the specifications. At the individual weapons listed in the UNSC's voluntary transmission, the one the Infinity had sent to the League's monitoring systems, the specific open-handed gesture of a new arrival demonstrated good faith by showing what it carried. He had noted that gesture. He had assessed it the way he assessed all gestures, not for its surface quality, but for what it revealed about the person making it. A military force that voluntarily transmitted its weapon specifications to a potential adversary was a military force that was prioritizing relationships over security, that was either confidence or naivety. Given the specifications, it was confidence. They knew nothing on this planet could threaten them, which meant they were not thinking defensively. which meant they had a gap. The ground teams, Giovanni said. The Spartans. They're carrying personal weapons. He looked at Lambda. The MA-5D assault rifle. The M6H sidearm. The Mjolnir armor systems. He paused. Those are not the Mac cannons, but reverse-engineered personal armor that can withstand the physical capabilities of a Charizard. He paused. That alone is worth more than everything Team Rocket currently operates. The armor doesn't leave the Spartans, Lambda said. Not voluntarily, Giovanni said. The table was quiet. Not the uncomfortable quiet of people who had heard something they didn't like, the specific working quiet of a professional team processing a tactical problem. Giovanni looked at his Persian, who was sitting beside his chair with the specific, elegant stillness of a Pokémon that had been with him long enough to read his moods precisely, and who was currently reading the specific mood of focused acquisition and was sitting with it in the specific way of something that was ready to move when the direction became clear. The Pokémon, Giovanni said. Lambda looked at him. The UNSC doesn't know how Pokémon work, Giovanni said. They arrived 8 hours ago. They have Roland's translation matrix and Professor Oak's cooperation and the specific goodwill that comes from sending your best soldier to walk through Pallet Town with the world champion. He paused. They have no idea what a trained Pokémon in the hands of an experienced operator can do against technology-dependent combatants who have never encountered it. He paused. We use our Pokémon as delivery systems, not for theft, for distraction, for access disruption, for creating the specific operational conditions in which UNSC ground teams are separated from their equipment, and that equipment becomes accessible. The Spartans are in Mjolnir, Lambda said. Electric-type moves. Won't penetrate it, Giovanni agreed. But psychic-type will. He looked at the table. But psychic-type moves operate at a level that armor cannot block. The armor protects against physical and energy impacts. It does not protect against direct neural interference. He paused. A sufficiently powerful psychic type, operated by an experienced trainer, can incapacitate a Spartan without touching the armor. He paused. I want Sabrina's counterpart. I want someone who can do what she does. Lambda made a note. And the timing, Giovanni said. Mount Moon. The League is taking Master Chief to Mount Moon at dawn. Whatever is under that mountain is significant enough that Blue called an emergency session within 11 minutes of the ship's arrival and proposed a joint investigation within 5 hours of first contact. He paused. Whatever is under Mount the Moon is the most significant thing in this situation, which means the most significant people will be underground and separated from their ship's defensive capabilities and operating in an environment with limited communication to orbit. He paused. MT. The moon is where we make our move. He looked at his Persian. Begin deployment, he said. Full field teams. I want operatives at every access point to Mount Moon by 0500. I want the cryptography team on Halsey's data packets immediately. He paused. And I want someone watching Ash Ketchum. Lambda looked up from her notes. The world champion, she said. The world champion, Giovanni confirmed. Who made first contact? Who is personally connected to the UNSC ground team? Who has a Pikachu that I have never been able to acquire in 30 years of trying? He paused. If the situation escalates in ways I'm not currently anticipating, Ash Ketchum is the variable most likely to produce an outcome I haven't planned for. He paused. I want him to watch. Not threatened, watched. Lambda nodded. Giovanni looked at the Infinity on the screen. At the 3-kilometer warship hanging above his world, full of weapons that had no equivalent here, operated by people who had never heard of Team Rocket and who were currently treating his world with the specific, careful respect of guests who understood they were guests. He felt, for a moment, the specific quality of something that was not quite guilt, not guilt, because guilt required a moral framework that Giovanni had also systematically excised alongside fear, but the specific adjacent quality of recognition. The UNSC had arrived and had transmitted their specifications openly and had sent their best soldier to walk through Pallet Town in the clean morning air with a child and a Pikachu, and Giovanni was planning to steal their weapons. He noted the recognition. He filed it. He moved on. Master Chief was at the base of Mount Moon at 0530 hours. Blue was already there, with 2 of his own Pokémon, Blastoise and Alakazam, the specific selection of a trainer who had thought about what the underground environment required and had chosen accordingly. 3 League researchers with equipment packs, and Oak, who had apparently simply decided to come regardless of whether he had been specifically invited, which Master Chief had noted and respected. Fireteam Majestic flanked Master Chief in the specific formation of a unit operating in an unknown environment. DeMarco and Thorn on the outer edges, Vale and Glassman on research support, Madsen running point with his motion sensor active. They were in full Mjolnir, with the weapons load they had brought to the planet light by UNSC standards, which still meant considerably more firepower than anything that had ever entered Mount Moon before. Halsey's briefing was running in Master Chief's ear, 3 hours of compressed data that she had transmitted at 0430, with the specific quality of a scientist who had been awake for 35 hours and whose mind was running at the specific elevated pace that exhaustion sometimes produced in people whose baseline was already extraordinary. He had listened to all of it. He had listened with the specific quality of a soldier receiving intelligence that reframed the operational context, the specific shift of understanding when information that had been separate resolved into a picture that was larger and more significant than any of its components. The foundation, the bond, the precursors, the alternative answer. The halo array had been wrong. He had understood immediately what Halsey was saying and what it meant, and he had sat with it in the pre-dawn dark of his temporary quarters on the ground level of Indigo Plateau and had felt the specific quality of something that was not sorrow. Exactly, not the operational sorrow of a soldier who had lost people, the specific personal grief that he kept filed away in the place where he kept things that couldn't be dealt with during active operations, but the larger and less personal quality of understanding that something enormous had been unnecessary. All of it. The array, the firing, unnecessary. He filed it with the same discipline he filed everything that couldn't be dealt with during active operations. He focused on Mount Moon. Blue led them to the restricted access entrance on the mountain's northern face, a carved stone doorway that had the specific quality of something very old that had been found rather than built, that had been here before the mountain's human history, and that the League had simply fenced off and categorized and tried to understand from the outside because the inside had never been safely accessible. The inside was accessible now. The node was active. Halsey had been right about that. The energy readings spiking in the 2 hours before dawn with the specific quality of a system responding to the approach of something it recognized. The Infinity's Forerunner-derived technology triggering a response the way a key triggered a lock. The doorway was open. The darkness inside it was not empty. It had the specific quality of darkness that contained something that was the absence of light in a space that had other presences in it. Blue looked at Master Chief. The Master Chief looked at the doorway. "Roland," he said quietly. "Readings are consistent with Halsey's framework," Roland said in his ear. "The node is in the deepest chamber, approximately 400 meters down. The path is clear. The foundation is..." A pause. "Chief, the foundation is lighting the way. The bioluminescent organisms on the walls are the foundation's expression in this environment. It's showing us where to go." Blue looked at the walls of the entrance corridor, at the soft, blue-green light that had appeared on the stone surfaces since the doorway opened, the specific, gentle quality of something ancient making itself known. "It's never done that before," Blue said quietly. "It knows we're here." Master Chief said. Blue looked at him. Not us, Master Chief said. The technology I'm carrying, the Forerunner signatures in the Infinity systems, it recognizes the lineage. He paused. It's been waiting for someone from that lineage to come. Blue looked at the lit corridor, at the 2-billion-year-old light, showing them the way down. Then we go down, Blue said. They went in. Behind them, on the mountain's surface, in the tree line, 200 meters from the restricted access entrance, 3 Team Rocket operatives watched them disappear into the mountain and opened their comms to Giovanni. And in the forest path that led from Pallet Town toward the mountain, moving fast with the specific purposeful quality of someone who had woken up at 0430 with the specific feeling that something important was happening without him and who had decided that this was not acceptable. Ash Ketchum ran with Pikachu on his shoulder, the Pokémon's ears forward, and its electrical charge building with the specific quality of a creature that could feel the Foundation's activation in the rock beneath their feet, and that knew, with the specific animal certainty that predated language, that something was about to happen that mattered. The corridor went down at a shallow angle for the first 100 meters. Then it went down steeply. Then it opened. Master Chief stepped through the chamber entrance and stopped moving the specific full stop of a soldier whose motion sensor and threat assessment protocols were running simultaneously with something that was not a protocol, that did not have a designation in his operational framework, that was simply the specific quality of a human being encountering something so far outside the catalog of human experience that the body paused to process it before the legs resumed. The chamber was enormous, not in the way of Forerunner installations, not the specific cold geometric enormity of Forerunner architecture, the hard angles and the light that came from the structure itself, with the specific blue-white quality of technology expressing itself as illumination. This was an organic enormity. The chamber had been grown rather than built. The walls curved in the specific way of something that had followed the natural geometry of the rock and had shaped itself to it rather than imposing on it. The ceiling vaulting upward in the specific quality of a space that had been made to feel large rather than simply to be large, to produce in whoever stood in it the specific sensation of standing inside something alive. The Foundation's bioluminescence was everywhere. Not just on the walls, in the walls, running through the stone in the specific branching pattern of a nervous system, the blue-green light pulsing with the slow rhythm of something that breathed on a timescale that made human breathing look frantic. The pulse was approximately once every 40 seconds. Halsey had noted it in her briefing. The Foundation's operational cycle, the specific rhythm of a system that had been running for 2 billion years and that had developed, in the running, the specific quality of something so ancient that its processes had become indistinguishable from the processes of the world it ran through. In the center of the chamber, the node, a structure the specific word came to Master Chief from his Forerunner briefings, from the years of operational experience with Forerunner installations that was neither fully mechanical nor fully biological. A column, approximately 3 meters tall, rising from the chamber floor with the specific quality of something that had grown upward rather than been placed, that had been part of the floor and had differentiated from it over time the way a tree differentiated from the soil it grew in. Its surface was covered in the Foundation's bioluminescent network, the branching light patterns running across it, in the specific organized complexity of something that was processing information, that was active, that was doing something that had been doing it for 2 billion years and was doing it right now. And it was doing something different right now. The pulse had changed. Not the 40-second rhythm that was still there, still running with the specific patient quality of the Foundation's baseline operation, but overlaid on it, a second rhythm, faster, responsive, the specific quality of a system that had detected something and was reacting to it, the pulse of a heart rate elevated by recognition rather than threat. It knew they were here. Blue stood beside Master Chief and looked at the node with the specific expression of someone who had been carrying a question for 22 years and was standing in front of the answer and was taking a moment to understand what the prize. Answer being present meant for everything else. "I've been trying to get in here since I was 15, Blue said quietly. "What stopped you?" Master Chief said. "The door wouldn't open," Blue said. "For anyone. The League has been trying to access this chamber for 40 years. The geological surveys, the drill teams, the psychic-type Pokémon we sent to feel for access points." He paused. Nothing worked. The mountain simply wouldn't be entered. He looked at the node. "Until this morning. Until the Infinity arrived," Master Chief said. "Until you arrived," Blue said, "with whatever you're carrying in that armor that this thing recognizes." He looked at the node. "What does it want?" The Master Chief looked at the node. At the pulse running through it, the faster rhythm, the responsive quality, the specific quality of something that was not just active, but was oriented, directed. The bioluminescent network on its surface was concentrating the light patterns converging toward the node's apex with the specific quality of something preparing to communicate. "Roland," Master Chief said. "I'm reading it," Roland said. "The node is chief. It's attempting to interface. The signal it's broadcasting is not audio, not visual. It's operating at a quantum level, the same level the Forerunner domain operates at, the communication medium the Forerunners used for their most fundamental data transmission." A pause. "It's not talking to the room. It's talking about technology. It's talking to the Forerunner components in your suit." The Master Chief looked at his hands. At the Mjolnir gauntlets, the armor that had been built from human engineering and Forerunner-derived technology, the specific hybrid quality of something that was human in its purpose and Forerunner in significant portions of its execution. The node's pulse was synchronizing with something. He felt it before the suit's sensors confirmed it, the specific quality of a sensation that was not external, that was not coming through the armor's physical interface, but through something deeper, through the Forerunner components that ran through the suit's nervous system the way the Foundation's bioluminescent network ran through the mountain stone. The node was talking to him, not in language, in the specific, direct quality of information that arrived already understood, that bypassed the translation layer, because translation was a process for beings that communicated externally, and what the node was doing was internal. It was placing understanding directly into the architecture of the Forerunner. Components he was interfaced with, the way a Forerunner repository placed knowledge directly into the mind of whoever touched it. He stood very still. The understanding arrived. It came in layers. The first layer was the Foundation itself, its architecture, its purpose, its 2-billion-year operating history, compressed into something that was not memory, but was the specific quality of knowing, the way you knew your own name, without being able to describe the process of the knowing. The Foundation was a gift. The specific word arrived with the understanding gift, given freely, placed here by something so ancient that the precursors themselves had been young when it was built. Placed here as an answer to a question that the universe had been asking since the first predator and the first prey, since the first moment that life had looked at other life and chosen consumption over coexistence. The question was, is there another way? The Foundation's answer was, yes, this is it. This is what it looks like. The second layer was the bond. Not the concept of it, the actual experience of it, the specific quality of what it felt like to be a human in the Pokémon world in full neurological bond with a partner Pokémon, the experience that every trainer who had ever formed a genuine connection had had, and that the Foundation sustained and enabled and had been building toward for 2 billion years. Master Chief had never experienced anything like it. He had experienced the specific bond of a soldier with a unit, the trust, the specific knowledge of another person's capabilities and limits, the way a fire team moved as a single organism because the individuals in it had learned each other well enough to anticipate. He had experienced the bond with Cortana, the specific intimacy of an AI and a Spartan who had been through the unsurvivable together, who had known each other at a level that most human relationships never reached. This was different. This was the bond at the level of the foundation, the specific quality of a connection that operated not just at the psychological level, but at the neurological, the quantum, the specific fundamental level at which the universe was built. The bond between a trainer and their Pokémon was not metaphorical. It was not cultural. It was a physical fact, encoded in the Foundation's operation, sustained by 2 billion years of patient engineering. The specific alternative answer to the predation imperative that had driven everything from the Flood to the Covenant to the 30 years of war that Master Chief had been fighting since he was a child. The bond transformed the predation imperative, not eliminated it, transformed it. The drive to compete, to acquire, to dominate the Foundation had not removed those drives. It had redirected them toward the partnership, toward the collaborative achievement of the trainer and Pokémon together. The specific joy of Ash Ketchum running down a road with Pikachu was not incidental. It was the Foundation's purpose to express itself in the simplest and most direct possible form. This was what 2 billion years of engineering looked like when it worked. A boy and a Pikachu running, going somewhere together. The third layer was the message. The specific message that the node had been built to deliver to the specific recipient that the portal had been built to bring here, the message that had been waiting in this chamber for longer than human civilization had existed, addressed to whoever came through the door with Forerunner technology and the specific context to understand what they were reading. The message was brief. It said, "You used the array. We know. We watched. We are sorry that you felt there was no other way. We wanted you to see that there was. We wanted you to see that it worked." End quote. End quote. Take this knowledge back to wherever you came from. Build it into whatever comes next. The bond is the answer. It has always been the answer. It will always be the answer. Do not waste it again. The Master Chief stood in the chamber for a very long time. The node's pulse slowed back to its 40-second baseline. The communication was complete. The chamber was silent, except for the specific, soft quality of the Foundation's bioluminescent light, the blue-green glow of something ancient and patient and finished. Something that had done what it was built to do and was now simply maintaining, sustaining, keeping the answer alive in the world it had made for exactly this purpose. Blue was watching him. Oak was making notes rapidly, the specific, furious notation of a scientist who had spent 40 years waiting for the information currently entering his field of observation. Fireteam Majestic was in their perimeter positions, DeMarco and Thorne on the chamber entrance, Glassman running environmental scans. Vale looking at the node with the specific expression of someone who could feel that something significant had just happened and who didn't have the vocabulary for it yet but was working on acquiring it. Madsen's motion sensor pinged. "Chief," Madsen said, quietly, the specific quality of a Spartan, flagging something that required attention without elevating it to emergency status. "I'm reading contacts. Surface level. Multiple. They were there when we came in. And they're still there, and they haven't moved toward us, but they haven't moved away either." "How many?" Master Chief said. 8 confirmed. Madsen said, "Possibly 12. They're using the tree line for concealment." A pause. "They have Pokémon with them. I'm reading the energy signatures." The Master Chief looked at Blue. Blue's expression had shifted, the specific shift of someone who had been in the presence of something ancient and profound and was now back in the operational present and was running his own assessment of the situation with the dive. Specific speed of someone who had been a champion at 17 and who had maintained that level of tactical intelligence even after losing the title. "Team Rocket," Blue said, the specific, flat quality of a statement rather than a question. Giovanni moved fast. "You expected this?" Master Chief said. "I expected the possibility," Blue said. Giovanni has been trying to acquire extraordinary technology for 30 years. The Infinity is the most extraordinary technology he has ever seen. He looked at the chamber entrance. He would have had people at every access point to this mountain by 0500. They watched us go in, Master Chief said. And they'll be waiting when we come out, Blue said, with Pokémon and whatever personnel he's deployed with. He paused. The question is, what they're after. If it's Mount Moon node. They can't use it, Master Chief said. The node interfaces with Forerunner technology. They don't have any. End quote. Then it's your equipment, Blue said. He looked at Master Chief's Mjolnir. Your armor, your weapons. He paused. Giovanni would understand the value immediately. Let them try, Madsen said quietly, from his position. And the Master Chief looked at the chamber entrance, at the specific operational geometry of a team coming out of a confined space into an ambush, the classic disadvantage of the exiting party, the specific tactical challenge of transitioning from an enclosed environment to an open one against a prepared opposing force. He had done it 100 times. He looked at Blue. How many Pokémon do you have with you? He said. 2, Blue said. Blastoise and Alakazam. Both are fully trained. What does Alakazam do? Master Chief said. Blue looked at him. Psychic type, Blue said. Precognition, telekinesis, and, he paused, telepathy. It can read intent at a range of approximately 50 meters. 10. It can tell us where they are before we exit, Master Chief said. Better than your motion sensor, Blue said. Alakazam doesn't just read physical position. It reads intent. It will know which ones are about to move before they move. Master Chief looked at the node one last time. At the Foundation's bioluminescent pulse, the slow 40-second rhythm of something that had been here for 2 billion years and would be here for 2 billion more. Sustaining its answer in the world it had made for it, patient and ancient and complete. He turned to Fireteam Majestic. Standard exit protocol, he said, modified for Pokémon enhanced opposition. Lethal force is not authorized. These are human combatants in their own world, and we are guests here. He paused. Disable and contain. Blue's Alakazam provides advanced intelligence. Blastoise on crowd control. Majestic provides coverage. He paused. Nobody fires first. We give them the opportunity to stand down. He paused. Once. Ed. Fireteam Majestic acknowledged. Blue called his Pokémon forward. Alakazam emerged from its Pokéball with the specific, quiet quality of a psychic type, no dramatic display, no energy discharge, simply present, suddenly. The specific quality of something that existed at a level slightly adjacent to the physical, and that moved through space with the specific, unhurried grace of something that knew where everything was going to be before it got there. Its spoons were crossed. Its eyes were closed. It was already reading. It opened its eyes. It looked like Master Chief. And Master Chief, through the Forerunner components of his suit, through whatever the node's communication had opened in the interface between his armor and the Foundation's network, felt it. The specific edge of Alakazam's awareness touches his own. Not invasive. Not the specific violation of psychic intrusion. A greeting. The same greeting the Pikachu had offered in Professor Oak's laboratory, the specific quality of a Pokémon making contact with a person and finding, in the contact, something worth acknowledging. You understand now, it said, not in words, in the specific direct quality of psychic communication. What the node showed you. Yes, the Master Chief said. Good, Alakazam said. Then let's go deal with these people. It turned toward the exit. Master Chief followed it. Behind them, in the chamber, the Foundation's pulse continued its patient, ancient rhythm. 2 billion years of an answer, sustaining itself in the rock, waiting for nothing now, because it had done what it was built to do, and the doing was enough. Above the mountain, dawn was fully established. Outside, 12 Team Rocket operatives with Pokémon waited in the tree line. And from the forest path below, running hard with Pikachu on his shoulder and the specific, determined quality of someone who always arrived exactly when he was needed, Ash Ketchum emerged from the trees at the base of Mount. Moon looked up at the mountain's northern face and started climbing. The orbital engagement began at 0736 hours with the specific violence of weapons that had been designed in a different universe for a different war, now recalibrated by Carter's harmonic analysis and Cortana's beat frequency refinement to solve a problem that neither universe had faced alone. Destroyer Squadron Alpha fired the first full salvo. 10 Anlace-class destroyers, 20 cannons. Twin Mac beats first cannon on harmonic upswing, second 2.1 seconds later on downswing. The beat frequency Carter had spent 3 years theorizing and Cortana had refined in 11 minutes created a kinetic saturation pattern that Anubis's ancient-derived adaptive shields had never encountered in 5,000 years. Of absolute military supremacy. The shields were designed to rotate harmonic frequencies against energy weapons. Against kinetic mass, they could modulate deflection fields. Against sustained kinetic mass, at relativistic velocity, they could hold. Against two simultaneous kinetic signatures, arriving at carefully timed intervals that exploited the 2-7-second harmonic rotation cycle, they cascaded. Hatak 1 through 4 took the first salvo across their forward shield arcs. Shield integrity dropped an average of 41% across all 4 ships in 4.3 seconds. UNSC, stalwart and resolute, bearing directly on Anubis's personal flagship, fired their beat sequence with the precision of crews who had practiced this targeting solution for 48 hours since Cortana first transmitted the harmonic data. First, cannon, 2.1 seconds. Second, cannon. The flagship shields, ancient modified, theoretically the most sophisticated shielding in the galaxy, dropped from 91% to 38%. On the Infinity's bridge, Lieutenant Esposito's voice was steady. 4 Hatak shields in cascade failure. Anubis flagship at 38%. Destroyer formation holding perfect spacing. Lasky watched the tactical display. Frigate screen archer spread, pattern Victor. Target exposed Hatak hulls. 600 archer missiles launched across the frigate formation. Kinetic warheads, staggered detonation sequences, 20 frigates firing in overlapping arcs that ensured no Hatak in the engagement envelope could concentrate point defense on a single launch vector. Prometheus broke from the screen, Captain Ronson pushing the ship into a high G turn that only a vessel flying on 3 years of accumulated combat instinct would attempt. Railgun batteries tracking Hatak 7's dorsal ridge, firing in the 3-second window before the Hatak's point defense could reacquire. Hatak 7 lost its primary emitter junction. Prometheus reporting railgun impact. Hatak 7, Palmer said. Hull breach, confirmed. Primary weapons, offline. Ronson, Jack said from the control room. Buy him a drink. He's buying, Hammond said. Anubis's flagship, 0738 hours. The system lord stood at his tactical holograph as his forward shield emitters overloaded in sequence. His fleet master fought sparking consoles. Jaffa technicians rerouted power through tertiary systems. The flagship's internal lighting shifted from gold to red as emergency protocols engaged. Anubis did not move, did not react. He processed. The beat frequency was not in his ancient knowledge library. Not because the ancients hadn't understood kinetic mass saturation they had. They had designed defenses against exactly this principle, but because no civilization in this galaxy had ever deployed kinetic weapons at this scale with this timing precision, his adaptive shields were designed against the weapons this galaxy produced. Against 2 simultaneous kinetic signatures fired at calculated intervals, they had no answer. He ran the tactical mathematics in the time it took his fleet master to report damage. Results: Hatak 1 through 4, Combat effectiveness reduced to 43%. Hatak 7 primary weapons offline. Flagship shields at 38%. Structural integrity holding. Secondary weapons functional. The human destroyer formation had not moved. Perfect spacing, interlocking arcs, no exposed flanks, no gap that numerical Hatak superiority could exploit. He had underestimated the fleet's tactical sophistication. Recall Hatak 1 through 4, Anubis said. Deploy counter-drone interceptors. Force their archer missiles to abort the terminal phase. As you command, the fleet master said. 2,000 interceptor drones launched from reserve Hatak bays, not adaptive weapons, pure interceptors, designed to detonate incoming kinetic projectiles before terminal phase. Archer missiles began dying in mid-flight. Frigate screen, Lasky said immediately. Cease archer fire. Switch to point defense only. Destroyers maintain anti-Hatak focus. A. The tactical exchange shifted. Interceptor drones clearing the missile envelope. Destroyers reloading MAC beats. Frigates repositioning point defense coverage. Prometheus circling back toward screen position. Hull showing 2 staff cannon impact points. Ronson refusing to acknowledge damage. Carter watched the exchange on the main display. Instruments registering every variable simultaneously. He's adapting. Interceptor drones eliminate archer missiles. Destroyers focused on Hatak. He's trying to isolate the formation's elements. Divide and engage, Teal'c said. Yes, Carter said. Force the destroyers to maneuver. Break their spacing. Create gaps. Lasky knows, the chief said from the corridor entrance. He had returned from surface drone coordination, gold visor, reading the tactical display. He won't break formation. Anubis will test that, Teal'c said. Test it against what? Jack said. Against Prometheus, the chief said. Carter's head came up. Ronson, the chief confirmed. Anubis targets the most vulnerable element, forces it out of position. Destroyers maneuver to cover. A gap appears. Hammond was already on the comm. Lasky chief's assessment. Anubis targets Prometheus to create a formation gap. Unquote. Ask H2 H. Chief's correct, Lasky said. Ronson, fall back to screen position Delta 3. Let the frigates cover. End. Ronson's voice. Respectfully, Captain, I can draw 3 Hatak into the destroyer kill arc. If I hold position, another 40 seconds. Silence. Lasky processed that. 40 seconds. Prometheus, hull at 71%. 3 Hatak into destroyer fire arcs. The mathematics of sacrifice against the mathematics of formation integrity. 40 seconds, Lasky said. Then you pull. Copy, Ronson said. Hammond watched the single gray icon hold position as 3 Hatak converged on it. Staff cannon fire, impacting shields in cascading sequences. The Prometheus absorbed hit after hit, railgun batteries returning fire, buying 40 seconds of tactical positioning that cost her hull integrity and gave the destroyers 3 exposed Hatak at optimal engagement angles. Fire, Lasky said. 10 destroyers, 20 cannons, 3 Hatak at optimal angle. The beat frequency saturation ran exactly as calculated. All 3 ships went to cascade shield failure in 6.1 seconds. Prometheus pulled back, hull integrity at 54%. Ronson's voice completely calm. Position Delta 3, ready for the next run. Jack stared at the tactical display. He's going to need that drink. The whole SGC is buying, Hammond said. The engagement had been running for 11 minutes when Anubis made his second significant recalculation. 7 Hatak combat ineffective or withdrawn. His personal flagship at 38% shields. The human destroyer formation had absorbed 3 major probe waves and not broken formation once. Prometheus, a single Tauri ship that by all rights should have disintegrated under concentrated Hatak fire, was still in the engagement envelope, still drawing targeting solutions. still functioning as bait with the specific stubbornness of a crew that had decided the mathematics of their survival were irrelevant. Anubis's flagship is accelerating, Esposito said. He's moving to a firing position at the Destroyer Squadron Alpha Center, bringing the remaining 6 Hatak as escort. Full commitment, Palmer said. His reserve is gone. Lasky checked the fleet status. Infinity primary max. 4 rounds. Target Anubis flagship. Destroyers 5th Mach. Beat on my mark. Frigate screen point defense. Maximum coverage. The Infinity's 4 primary Mach cannons, the largest kinetic weapons humanity had ever built, rotated to bearing. 4,600-ton ferric tungsten slugs, 40 kilometers per second. Terminal velocity. Energy equivalent of a tactical nuclear detonation delivered as pure kinetic mass. Anubis's flagship shields, at 38%, entered optimal engagement range. Fire, Lasky said. The Infinity fired 4 times in 2.8 seconds. All 4 rounds hit. Anubis's flagship forward pyramid structure disintegrated across a 70-meter section. Power relays failed in a cascading sequence through the ship's central spine. The Peltac vented the atmosphere. Secondary explosions walked down the starboard quarter. The Hatak didn't explode. Goa'uld redundancy systems were extraordinary, but it ceased, in every meaningful military sense, to function as a warship. The escort Hatak held formation for 3.7 seconds after the flagship's combat effectiveness collapsed. Then 2 broke toward hyperspace. Then 3 more. The 6th, taking direct Mach fire from destroyers Stalwart and Vigilant, simultaneously lost propulsion entirely and began a slow, unpowered drift. Anubis fleet-breaking formation, Esposito said. Hyperspace windows opening. Multiple ships withdrawing. Lasky exhaled. All ships damage assessment. Maintain formation until the last Hatak clears sensor range. The control room erupted. Walter caught himself mid-celebration and returned to his console with professional dignity, Jonas wrote furiously. Carter was already pulling engagement data for analysis. Orbit clear, Walter said. All Hatak withdrawing, or combat ineffective. Hammond hit the comm. Lasky, outstanding. You're Prometheus, Captain, Lasky said. Get him a medal. Already drafted, Hammond said. But Teal'c had not moved from his position at the window. His staff weapon was still across his chest. His expression carried the quality it carried when the immediate threat had been neutralized and the deeper threat was just arriving at the surface of awareness. Anubis, Teal'c said. The room went quiet. His flagship is disabled, Jack said. Fleet's running. His body is not, Teal'c said. He is half-ascended. His energy form does not require a functional ship. Carter ran the sensor data. Ring transport signature. Sub-level 1. She looked up. He's in the mountains. Hammond was already on the comm. All teams Anubis are in the building. Energy form. Do not engage directly. The chief turned toward sub-level 1. Chief, Hammond said. Cortana briefed me, the chief said. Nakwada, resonance disruption. Physical contact to destabilize the energy matrix. DHD frequency. Jack fell in step. Last time corridor. Different god. Same mountain, the chief said. Carter was already pulling the DHD resonance frequency calculations. The calculations she had been developing since the last visit, since Cortana had first flagged Anubis's energy form as the threat profile that required a solution the SGC had never had before. She had the solution now. John, Cortana said, through the external speaker. The chief paused. 186.4 terahertz, Cortana said. Zat frequency modulation. Physical contact at that window. 2 seconds. The chief moved toward sub-level 1 at a pace that made the SF escorts flanking the corridor question their life choices. Behind him, the gate room hummed at standby. 31 UNSC ships held orbital positions. Anubis dispersed from his flagship, descended to the one place in the galaxy he was least expected to enter personally, moved through Cheyenne Mountain's corridors like a wound in the air. Ancient knowledge intact, energy form intact, and absolutely certain that the humans waiting for him had nothing that could stop him. He was about to find out how wrong certainty could be. Giovanni's coordinates led them to the Seafoam Islands, not the caves beneath them. The specific subgeological level that the Foundation's network ran through, the branching bioluminescent grid of it visible in the deep scan data that Halsey had been refining aboard the Infinity for the past 18 hours. The specific layer of the world where the Precursor engineering met the natural rock and had been running through it for so long that the distinction between the two had become academic. The return portal was there. Roland confirmed it at 1,400 hours from orbital. Scan the specific energy signature of a two-way Forerunner transit point. Different from the arrival portal in the specific way that a door with a handle on both sides was different from a door with a handle on one. The specific architectural quality of something that had been designed not just to bring things in, but to send them back. Master Chief stood at the Seafoam Island's eastern shore with Fireteam Majestic and Blue and Oak and Ash, and looked at the scan data on his HUD and felt the specific quality of an operation entering its final phase, the specific change in the quality of attention that came when the objective was in sight and the remaining distance between the current position and it was measurable. They could go home. The knowledge sat with the specific weight of something that was both straightforward and not straightforward at all. Straightforward because home was home, because the Infinity had a crew of thousands who had lives that existed in known space and who deserved to return to them. Because the Foundation's data and Halsey's framework needed to go back to people who could do something with it. Not straightforward because of the specific quality of what was being left behind when they left. This world, the Foundation's pulse in the rock beneath their feet, the clean air and the clean water, and the 2-billion-year answer running through everything, Ash Ketchum and Pikachu. Blue's handshake on the landing pad. Oak's notes, furious and comprehensive, 40 years of hypothesis finally confirmed. Mewtwo on New Island in the morning light. The specific quality of a world that had never needed to end itself, to save itself, and that wore that quality not as an achievement, but as simply the condition of being what it was. He was going to leave it. He was going to take what he had been shown and carry it back to a galaxy that had been shaped by the array's firing and that was trying, in the specific uncertain way of things that had survived something enormous and were not yet sure what came after, to figure out what it was building toward. And he was going to tell them. He was going to stand in front of the people who made decisions at the scale where decisions had consequences measured in civilisations, and he was going to tell them what he had seen here, and what it meant, and what it cost to build it, and what it looked like when it worked. He was going to say, there was another way. There has always been another way. I have been to the world where it was tried. It worked. It is still working. It will keep working. And here is what it looks like, and here is how it was built, and here is what it requires. It requires a bond. It requires the specific quality of choosing something outside yourself and sustaining that choice daily in the specific, small, ordinary moments that are the actual substance of a life. It requires love. Not as a concept, as a practice, as the specific thing you do every day that either builds the bond or erodes it, that either moves toward the alternative answer or away from it. He looked at Ash, who had been walking beside him since Mount Moon, with the specific quality of someone who had things to say and who was waiting for the right moment to say them, and who had, in the waiting, been saying them anyway, in the specific indirect way of someone whose primary language was action rather than words, pointing out the Seafoam Islands' geography, telling Master Chief about Articuno, explaining the specific quality of this stretch of ocean in the specific way of someone who loved the place they were describing. Ash, Master Chief said. Yeah, Ash said. Mewtwo told me you'd want to battle, Master Chief said. Ash looked at him. The specific expression of a 10-year-old, discovering that Mewtwo had been talking about him, not embarrassed, not surprised exactly, but the specific quality of someone who had learned, through years of extraordinary experience, that Mewtwo did things for reasons, and that the reasons were always worth understanding. "Yeah?" Ash said. "I do." He paused. "Is that okay?" "It's okay," Master Chief said. "But I don't have a Pokémon." Ash looked at him. Then he looked at Pikachu. Pikachu looked at Master Chief. The electrical charge, the specific emotional indicator that Roland had learned to read in the weeks since their arrival, the involuntary expression of a Pokémon whose feelings ran at 40,000 volts was elevated, not with excitement. With the specific quality of a decision being made, a decision that Master Chief's Forerunner interface was picking up at the quantum level, the bond architecture of the Foundation, registering the specific moment of a Pokémon considering a person and finding them worth the consideration. Pikachu jumped from Ash's shoulder. It crossed the ground between Ash and Master Chief in 3 steps. It sat at Master Chief's feet. It looked up at him with the specific, direct quality of a creature that had decided something and was communicating that it had decided it. Ash looked at Pikachu, then at Master Chief, then back at Pikachu. "Huh," Ash said. Not upset, the specific quality of genuine surprise, mixed with the specific quality of someone who had been surprised by Pokémon enough times that surprise had become a form of delight rather than disorientation. "Pikachu's never done that before." "Done what?" Master Chief said. "Choose someone," Ash said. "Just decided." He paused. "Pikachu chose me at the beginning, and everyone said it was because we were assigned together, but it wasn't. Pikachu didn't like me at first. Pikachu chose me after the Spearow. After I covered Pikachu with my body, because 100 Spearow were coming, and I wasn't going to let them." He paused. "Pikachu chose me because of what I did, not because of what I was." He looked at Master Chief. "You did something too. I don't know exactly what, but Pikachu knows." The Master Chief looked down at Pikachu, at the specific small yellow creature that had been the first Pokémon he had ever seen, through a targeting scope on a road in Pallet Town, walking beside a boy going somewhere, with the specific, purposeful quality of someone who had a destination and was going there. He crouched down. The motion in Mjolnir, the specific, careful quality of 2 tons of armor bringing itself to knee height with calibrated deliberateness, was not graceful, but Pikachu did not move back. It looked at the gold visor with the specific, interested quality it had shown in Oak's laboratory, and it said Pika in the inflection that Roland now rendered, without hesitation, as, "Hello, I see you. You are real." "Hello," Master Chief said. Pikachu's cheeks sparked. It was, Roland noted in his ear, the specific dry quality of an AI that had learned the Pokémon world's emotional register, the equivalent of a smile. The Master Chief stood. He looked at Ash. "How does this work?" he said. Ash grinned, the specific full-face quality of it, the grin of someone who was exactly where they wanted to be, doing exactly the thing they were best at. "It's simple," Ash said. "You and Pikachu. Me and Pikachu." He pulled a Pokeball from his belt, the specific, practiced motion of 10,000 repetitions. "Charizard." He paused. "No rules, except one. You don't try to win, you try to connect. The battle is how you learn what Pikachu can do, how Pikachu learns what you need. The result doesn't matter, the connection does." The Master Chief looked at Pikachu. Pikachu looked at Master Chief. "Understood," Master Chief said. Ash threw the Pokeball. Charizard emerged with the specific, enormous quality of a fully evolved fire-flying type, wings spreading against the afternoon sky, the heat signature on Master Chief's HUD spiking immediately with the specific thermal output of a creature that ran at several hundred degrees and that wore it the way the ocean wore the clean blue, not as something it was doing, as simply the condition of being what it was. It looked like Pikachu. Pikachu's ears went flat. Its charge-built Master Chief tracked it on his HUD, the electrical output climbing from baseline, the specific, focused quality of a Pokémon, shifting from passive presence to active engagement, not fear. Readiness. The same quality Master Chief recognized from 30 years of standing beside Spartans before a drop, the specific shift of a person who was good at what they did and who was about to do it. Pikachu, Master Chief said. It looked at him. He looked at it. He had no commands, no operational vocabulary for this specific situation. No protocol that covered the direction of a Pokémon in combat, not in any UNSC manual, not in any Spartan training program, not in any briefing Halsey had ever given him. What he had was 30 years of understanding what the person beside him needed. Not instructions, presence. "I've got you," he said. Pikachu's ears came up. It turned to face Charizard. The charge peaked. Thunderbolt. The bolt came with the specific, immediate quality of a Pokémon that had been doing this its entire life, and that had found, in this specific moment, something it was doing it for, rather than simply at. The electrical discharge hit Charizard squarely, and Charizard weathered it with the specific trained quality of Ash's starter, a Pokémon that had fought legendaries and had not been ended by any of them, and responded with Flamethrower, the specific enormous column of it tracking toward Pikachu. "Left," Master Chief said. Pikachu went left. Not because it needed the direction it had been battling long enough to read flamethrower trajectories without assistance, but the word came with something underneath it, the specific quality of a communication that was not just positional information, but the specific quality of attention, of presence, of "I am here, and I am watching, and you are not alone in this." Pikachu landed and looked back at Master Chief. The charge was still building. "Again," the Master Chief said. Pikachu grinned. The second Thunderbolt was different from the first, not more powerful technically. The voltage was similar, but it carried the specific quality of a Pokémon that had decided about something and that was expressing that decision through the only language it had. The bolt hit Charizard, and Ash laughed, the specific delighted quality of someone watching something happen that they had hoped would happen, and Charizard shook it off and spread its wings and came back with aerial ace. The specific, swift motion of something that was enjoying the battle in the specific way that Ash's Pokémon always enjoyed battles, not as a test of dominance, but as the specific, joyful expression of what they were capable of. It went on for 10 minutes. Not a long battle by league standards, not a decisive one. Charizard was in a different weight class than Pikachu in any objective assessment, and everyone present knew it, and nobody was pretending otherwise. But it was not the result that mattered, and everyone present knew that too. What mattered was the quality of it, the specific back and forth of it, the way Pikachu moved, the way it had always moved, with the specific quick precision of something built for both speed and electrical output simultaneously, but differently. Now, with the specific quality of a Pokémon that was doing it with someone rather than alongside someone, that had calibrated its awareness to include a second presence and was operating in relationship to that presence in the specific way the Foundation had been building toward for 2 billion years. And Master Chief running no protocol, following no manual, doing nothing he had been trained to do, was simply there, watching, calling directions, occasionally. Being the specific quality of present that was all Pikachu needed from him, because Pikachu was already extraordinary and had always been extraordinary, and what it needed was not instruction, but company. The bond the node had shown him. He understood it now, not as information, as the specific lived quality of standing on a shore with a creature that had chosen you and doing the thing together. Ash called it after 10 minutes. Charizard landed beside him, and he gave it a potion and scratched its chin in the specific, familiar way of someone who had been doing that since Charmander, and Charizard submitted to it in the specific way of something that was very large and very powerful, and that permitted this one person to touch it because that one person had earned the specific right. He looked at Master Chief. "Well?" Master Chief said. Pikachu likes you, Ash said. Like, really likes you. He paused. That doesn't happen with everyone. Master Chief looked at Pikachu, who had returned to his side with the specific ease of a Pokémon that had decided where it was going to be and was there. I know, Master Chief said. Ash was quiet for a moment. The afternoon light was on the ocean, the seafoam island's geology rising behind them, the specific quality of late afternoon on water that was the specific beautiful quality of time running out, the light getting longer, the shadows moving, the day moving toward its end with the patient quality of days that did not stop for anyone. You're leaving tomorrow, Ash said. Yes, the Master Chief said. The portal, Ash said. Roland says it's stable, that the Infinity can transit through at 0800. Yes, Master Chief said. Ash looked at the ocean. He was 10 years old, and he had been through things that most adults had not been through, and he had the specific quality of someone who understood, at a level deeper than his years should have allowed, what it meant when something good was ending. Will you come back? He said. Master Chief looked at him. The red cap and the jacket were built for movement, and the specific quality of a face that was 10 years old and contained 30 years of experience, in the way that certain extraordinary people contained more than their age suggested they should. He thought about the portal, about known space, about the UNSC and the rebuilding galaxy, and the specific, enormous task of taking what he had been shown here and doing something with it in a context that had been shaped by the array's firing and that would need to be persuaded carefully and specifically and with the full weight of what he had experienced, rather than just what he had been briefed on, that the alternative answer was real. He thought about the Infinity's mission, about Captain Lasky, who had handled every moment of this with the specific quality of a commander who understood that the situation was unlike any situation in the UNSC's operational history, and who had responded to that understanding by trusting his people to navigate it rather than managing it from above. About Halsey, who had not slept in 2 days and who was still running analyses because the data was extraordinary, and because Halsey did not stop when the data was extraordinary. About Fireteam Majestic, who had walked through Pallet Town and underground through Mount. Moon stood on the slope of a mountain while Giovanni made his case, and had done all of it with the specific professional quality of Spartans who trusted their chief and who were quietly, and without making it operational, having the specific experience of people encountering a world that was worth the encounter. He looked at Ash. I don't know, he said. Honestly. Ash nodded. That's okay, Ash said. Honesty is better than a promise you can't keep. He paused. Professor Oak says the portal goes both ways. That means you can come back if you want to. Another pause. I hope you want to. Master Chief looked at the ocean, at the clean specific blue of it, at Pikachu, who was sitting at his feet with the specific quality of a creature that was exactly where it wanted to be. So do I, he said, and he meant it. In the specific, direct way that he had been learning over the course of 2 weeks on this world to mean things not as operational assessments, not as mission parameters, not as the specific functional language of a soldier managing a situation, as the actual truth of what he felt, stated plainly in the specific quality of a person who had been shown what was underneath the operational language and who was choosing, going forward, to lead with the underneath rather than the covering. He meant it. He hoped he came back. He didn't know if he would, but the hope was real. And in the Foundation's 2 billion-year framework, hope was not nothing. Hope was where the bond began. The Infinity prepared to leave at 0600. Not the transit itself that was scheduled for 0800, the specific 2-hour window that Roland had calculated as optimal for the return portal's alignment, the specific patient mathematics of a transit point that operated on Forerunner timescales and that Roland had been negotiating with for 36 hours to identify the precise moment when the energy configuration would support a vessel of the Infinity's mass without structural risk to either the ship or the portal itself. The 2 hours before were for everything else. Captain Lasky held a full crew briefing at 600 inches, the Infinity's main assembly bay, 3,000 people, in the specific organized quality of a crew that had been together long enough to have the specific character of a community rather than just a workforce. People who had spent 2 weeks on a world unlike anything in their operational catalog, and who were carrying that experience in the specific, quiet way of people who had been changed by something and who were still in the early process of understanding how. He stood at the front of the assembly bay and looked at them. "We came here by accident," he said. "A Forerunner portal we didn't choose, through a transit we couldn't stop." 3 weeks ago, this crew had never heard of Pokémon, had never seen a world that operated on a Foundation network, had never met a Spartan who flew into the morning sky with Mewtwo. He paused. "A lot has changed in 3 weeks." The assembly bay had the specific quality of 3,000 people listening carefully. "We're going home with something important," Lasky said. "Not just the data, though the data is extraordinary. And Dr. Halsey will confirm that it is the most significant scientific discovery in the history of the UNSC and possibly in the history of humanity." He paused. "We're going home," with a question answered. A question the Forerunners couldn't answer. A question that cost more than we can calculate in lives and civilisations and the specific quality of everything that was lost when the array fired. He paused. The question was, is there another way? Is there an answer to the thing that threatens everything, that doesn't require destroying everything to stop it? He looked at his crew. "The answer is yes," he said. "We've been standing on it for 3 weeks, and we're going to take that answer home." Master Chief was at the Seafoam Islands' eastern shore at 0700. Alone, which was a choice, Fireteam Majestic was completing their own departure protocols, their own specific processes of leaving a place they had been changed by. And he had given them the hour before transit to do that, without the specific weight of their chief's presence requiring them to be operationally composed. They had earned the specific quality of an unobserved departure. He stood at the shore with Pikachu. The morning light was on the water, the specific quality of early sun on the clean blue of an ocean that had never been contaminated with anything. The light moving across it with the patient quality of light that had been doing this every morning for longer than human civilization had existed, and would keep doing it long after. Pikachu sat beside him on a rock. They had been sitting like this for 20 minutes, not in silence exactly, because Pikachu communicated continuously in the specific electrical and vocal language of a creature for whom communication was as natural as breathing. The small sounds and the charge fluctuations and the specific quality of presence that Master Chief had learned to read over 3 weeks, in the way he learned everything important, through specific, sustained attention rather than briefing. But in the specific, comfortable quality of 2 things that had been through something together and that did not need to fill the space between them to confirm that the space between them was good. He was going to miss it. He had not expected to be able to say that about a Pokémon. He had not expected to be able to say it about the world. He had spent 30 years not allowing himself to miss things in the specific operational way of someone who understood that missing things was a form of attachment, and that attachment in a soldier was a liability. You moved through places, you protected them, you left them, but something had changed in the specific quality of what he was carrying now: the node's communication, Mewtwo's understanding, Ash's battle, the Foundation's pulse in the rock beneath everything that had rearranged the operational framework in a way that was not going back. Missing things was not a liability. Missing things was evidence that the things had mattered. And things mattering was the actual word for what the operational language called mission priority. He had mattered to things here. They had mattered to him. That was not a weakness. That was the answer. Pikachu made a sound, the specific soft Pika that Roland's translation matrix rendered without hesitation as "I know you're going." "Yes," Master Chief said. Another sound. "You'll take what you learned?" "Yes," Master Chief said. A pause. Then a third sound quieter. "The specific quality of something, said carefully, in the way that important things were said when there was enough honesty in the space to say them." Roland's translation held for a moment. Then, "Don't forget what it feels like. The part before you knew what to call it. The part that was always there." Master Chief looked at the ocean. "I won't," he said. He meant it in the specific, direct way he had been learning to mean things. The full group assembled at the portal site at 0750. Blue was there alone again, which was becoming his specific statement of how he handled important things. Oak with his notepad, the specific, furious notation still running. 3 weeks of the most extraordinary scientific observation of his career, condensed into pages that would occupy the remaining decades of his research life. Professor Oak, who had been right in 1981 and had spent 40 years carrying that rightness quietly, and who was going to spend the rest of his life doing something with the confirmation. Agatha, who had nodded at Master Chief when he arrived, with the specific quality of an acknowledgement between people who understood things that most people didn't and who recognized that quality in each other. Lieutenant Surge, who had shaken DeMarco's hand with the specific grip of a former military man greeting a current one, and who had said nothing because nothing needed to be said. Ash, with Pikachu on his shoulder, the red cap, the jacket, was built for movement. The specific quality of a 10-year-old who had defeated every champion on the planet and who was standing at a portal site watching the finest soldier in human history prepare to leave, and who was handling it with the specific quality of someone who had learned, through years of extraordinary goodbyes, that goodbyes were not endings. They were evidence of arrivals. You could only say goodbye to something you had found. Master Chief stood at the portal's threshold. The specific energy configuration of the return transit point, Roland had confirmed it, at 0748. Alignment optimal. Transit window open. The Infinity in position above them for the specific coordinated transit that would pull the ship through simultaneously with the ground team's portal crossing. He looked at the assembled people, at the world behind them, the clean air and the Foundation's pulse in the rock, and the specific quality of a civilization that had been built around the bond and that wore the bond the way healthy things wore health. He looked at Ash. "The battle," Master Chief said. "It was good." Ash grinned. "Yeah," he said. "It was." He paused. "You and Pikachu, you'd be a good team. If you stay." "I know," Master Chief said. He crouched down. Pikachu looked at him from Ash's shoulder, the ears forward, the charge at baseline, the specific quality of a Pokémon that was where it was supposed to be, and that was looking at someone it had decided about, and that was holding that decision with the specific, uncomplicated quality of something that felt what it felt, and did not cover it with anything. "Thank you," Master Chief said. To Pikachu. "Pika," Pikachu said. Roland's translation, "Go do something with it." Master Chief stood. He looked at Blue. "Champion," he said. "Chief," Blue said. He extended his hand. Master Chief shook it the same calibrated care as the first time. The same precise restraint. "The Mount Moon node. We're going to study it." "Whoa!" "Good," Master Chief said. "Send the findings to the League's archive, and to Oak." He paused. "And, if you find anything else in the data that looks like a message, I'll find a way to reach you," Blue said. "The portal goes both ways," Master Chief said. Blue almost smiled. "It does," he said. Master Chief looked at the portal, the specific energy shimmer of the return transit point, the Forerunner gateway, humming with 2-billion-year purpose, the door that went home. He turned to Fireteam Majestic. Majestic was in line behind him. DeMarco, Thorne, Madsen, Glassman, Vale, the specific professional formation of a unit ready to move. But the formation had the specific quality of something that was different from the formation that had descended from the Pelican 3 weeks ago. Not in their discipline was intact and precise. In the specific quality of what they were carrying, the specific weight of people who had been somewhere that mattered, and who were leaving it, and who were not pretending that the leaving was operationally neutral. Vale was looking at the Foundation's bioluminescent glow in the rocks around the portal site with the specific quality of a linguist saying goodbye to a language she had just started to understand. Glassman had a notebook. He had been keeping notes since day 3, not technical data. Roland covered that. Something else. The specific human record of what it felt like to be here. DeMarco was looking at Mount. The moon is visible on the horizon with the specific quality of someone who had been underground with something ancient, and who was carrying the specific weight of what ancient things communicated when you let them. Thorne and Madsen were standing together with the specific quality of two people who had already said what they needed to say to each other and who were simply present now. "Majestic," Master Chief said. "Chief," they said. "Let's go home," he said. He stepped into the portal. The transit was 4.7 seconds, the same duration as the arrival, the specific symmetry of a Forerunner system operating with the precision of something that had been built carefully and that maintained that precision across 2 billion years of continuous operation. The specific quality of spatial geometry temporarily becomes optional. The HUD lost reference. The brief, disorienting instant of being between places, then known space, the star field of the Milky Way through the viewport. The specific quality of human-mapped space, surveyed, catalogued, familiar in the specific way of a home that had been left and was now returned to, and that looked different for the leaving. Roland confirmed transit completion at 0803 hours. The Infinity was whole. The ground team was aboard. The portal behind them had closed with the specific, clean quality of a door, properly shut, not locked, not sealed, closed in the specific way of something that could be opened again from either side. Master Chief stood in the Infinity's hangar and looked at the star field through the viewport. Known space, the rebuilding galaxy. The specific enormous task ahead, the Foundation data, Halsey's framework. The specific long work of standing in front of the people who made decisions at civilizational scale and telling them what he had seen and what it meant and what it cost to build and what it looked like when it worked. The bond, the alternative answer. 2 billion years of proof. He looked at his hands, at the Mjolnir gauntlets, the Forerunner components that ran through the armor systems, now carrying the specific additional quality of having been interfaced with the Foundation's network changed, subtly and permanently. The specific quality of technology that had touched something ancient and had been touched back. He thought about a small yellow creature sitting on a rock at the Seafoam Island's shore in the morning light, communicating in the specific language of charge fluctuations and small sounds, and the specific quality of presence that didn't need to fill the space to confirm that the space was good. Don't forget what it feels like. The part before you knew what to call it. The part that was always there. He wouldn't forget. He was going to carry it back to everyone who needed to hear it. The specific quality of a man who had been built into a weapon and who had been shown, clearly and specifically, and in the direct language of experience, rather than briefing, that the weapon was not the thing that mattered. The bond was the thing that mattered. It had always been the thing that mattered. He was going to spend the rest of his life doing something with that knowledge, in the specific way available to someone who had been carrying it for 30 years without the vocabulary, and who finally, 3 weeks on a world the Flood had never touched and would never touch, had been given the words. In the Infinity's research division, Halsey was already drafting the full report, the Foundation, the Precursor engineering, the specific schematics of the bond architecture, and what it would take to understand it well enough to apply its principles in a galaxy that was rebuilding and that needed, more than anything, to build in a direction that led somewhere other than the array. In the bridge, Lasky was plotting the course back to UNSC Command with the specific quality of a captain who understood that the most important cargo his ship had ever carried was not in the hold or the weapons bay, but in the specific quality of what his pain Crew was bringing back in their understanding. In Fireteam Majestic's quarters, Vale was writing long and fast, and with the specific quality of someone who had been holding language for 3 weeks and was now releasing it. The specific human record of what it had felt like to stand in the Foundation's chamber and to feel the node's communication running through the walls. And on a world that was now behind them, in the clean morning light of a day that was beginning in the specific ordinary way of days, on a world that had never needed to end itself to save itself. A boy in a red cap walked out of Pallet Town with Pikachu on his shoulder and turned south on the road toward the next route and the next adventure and the next thing. Going somewhere with the specific, purposeful quality of someone who had a destination and was going there and was not uncertain about either. Pikachu's ears were forward. The Foundation pulsed in the rock beneath their feet, 40-second rhythm, ancient and patient. The specific, quiet hum of 2 billion years of an answer sustaining itself in the world it had made for it. The bond held. It had always held. It would always hold. Because that was what the bond was. Not a concept. Not a framework. Not an alternative answer to a question that the Forerunners had answered with fire. A practice. A daily choice. A boy and a Pikachu walking into the morning. Going somewhere together. 3 months after the Infinity's return, Captain Lasky presented the full Pokémon World Report to the UNSC Security Council in a session that lasted 11 hours and that ended without the specific clean resolution that Security Council sessions were supposed to produce. Because the data did not produce a clean resolution, the data produced the specific quality of understanding that required a long time to become action. The slow, ground-level shift of a fundamental assumption beginning to change. The specific movement of a civilization that had been shaped by one answer, starting to orient toward the possibility of another. It would take time. Important things always took time. But the Foundation had been running for 2 billion years and was patient in the specific way of something that had always known that the answer would be found eventually, that the door would be opened eventually, that the right people would come through it eventually, that the knowledge would be carried back eventually to the people who needed it. Eventually, it happened. The bond was in the record now, permanent, real. And in the Infinity's hangar, on a shelf in Master Chief's quarters that had not had anything on it in 30 years of continuous operation, a small object sat in the specific quality of a kept thing, a thing that had been brought back, not for its tactical value or its scientific significance or its operational utility. A Pokeball, empty, a reminder of a small yellow creature in the morning light that had said go do something with it and had meant every volt he intended to.